This is Mid-Atlantic Women in Agriculture's Wednesday webinar. Our topic today is Ag Literacy with our presenter Michelle Walfrid, Communications Specialist at University of Delaware. Wednesday webinars are brought to you in partnership with University of Maryland and University of Delaware. And thanks to our sponsors, Farm Credit and PNC Bank.
Go right on ahead and talk about this. If you've attended the Women in Ag annual conference, which is held in February, some of this might be familiar to you. What we're going to talk about today is what is ag literacy, or advocating for agriculture, or the new word that's come up is agvocacy, and who are telling the stories about agriculture on social media, and are there other stakeholder and even extension voices out there. I gave this presentation to extension, and what do they know about agriculture, and what do they think that they know? And we need to do that. We need to understand the changing demographics and how we can, and therefore we can promote and market agriculture better, or our business if we have a business-related, agriculture-related business. Understanding all the tools and platforms. We won't go over all of them, but we'll highlight, and then setting up a plan and who's going to do it. There is a generational divide. My generation, I'm in my mid-50s. Let's see here. We may or may not do social media. I happen to be very, very active on it. A lot of my close girlfriends, they don't even want to touch it. So we're a real mixed bag for my generation and older. But the younger generation, it is where it's at, as social media is their primary tool of communication. Our generation has varying rates of internet access in Sussex County, Kent County, and any rural area. Access to the internet is just poor. But there's people on dial-up. There are people who can't even get dial-up. The new generation, they are extremely connected primarily because they're using mobile devices. My generation prefers face-to-face interaction. I served as a receptionist at the Carville Research and Education Center for 7 years, and I can tell you when people called up, they did not want to leave voicemail. No, I'll call back. When's he going to be in? We like to meet in person and interact in person. And we all know about the younger generation. They connect via smartphone. They're breaking up and getting back together and having relationships all via texting. It's simply amazing. Our generation reads newspapers and reads books. The new generation, not necessarily so. So they're not holding newspapers in their hands. They may be reading online versions, or they're getting headlines and feeds from different sources. And we also, our generation, varied our sources. We would watch ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS. We would read the paper, so we might get a different take from a paper. We would read our news and consume it in detail. And the new generation is very, very rapid. And again, headlines is what they hold on to the most. And we're cautious, and I don't think I'm being disparaging to the new generation. They're impulsive. That's why car insurance rates are higher. They just are. We are baby boomers primarily, and the new generations are called the Millennials. These are people who turned 20 around the millennium, so people born in 1980 and beyond. I have a daughter in that group. And then Gen X, I guess there's different, I can't keep up with all the different acronyms, but they're the next generation. There is a credibility gap. When we say our methods are proven safe, they may hear this. They may hear that your methods tamper with nature. And we're talking now about agriculture. We keep food affordable. Yeah, but at what expense to quality is what they might counter. Most family farms most farms are family run. They'll say, yeah, but you're beholden to the big processors and the bottom line. Again, all this emphasis on profits. We care about our land and our animals, and they believe, and they've demonstrated this, that they think that we'll take shortcuts whenever we can. And we need to produce more to feed the world. We love to say farmers feed the world. We'll get to that a little bit later. They just discount that completely, and they say, yeah, you're about wanting to sell to the world. We need a secure domestic food supply. You want subsidies and lax regulations. So we have these two different conversations that we're saying and how we're being perceived. We have the safest food supply in the world thanks to ag industry, and they will come back at you with, yeah, but you're using pesticides and antibiotics and hormones, and it's not safe in the long run. And what they're hearing is what they believe. This is very pervasive, particularly in social media. Now, if you have children that are growing up on a farm, they may be different. They may be the exception to the rule. But this is what a lot of younger people are believing about agriculture. In real estate, the slogan is location, location, location. If we're going to advocate for agriculture, we need to tell our story, tell our story, tell our story. We are not doing that enough. So how do we do that? We have different methods. You can do this on websites. If you've got a website that talks about your farm or your farm products, you may have you may be a creamery or you may sell agricultural products. Does your website have pictures? Do you have something that says about us and explain who you are, or is that website out there just to sell something? You may want to reconsider doing that. In social media, there's so many things out there. I would select, if you aren't on social media, that you look for one platform. Just start out with one that you can feel comfortable with. This website, we've been doing this now for I don't know how many months, Victoria, quite a lot. We have about 8 or 9 archived webinars. They talk about Twitter and how to use Twitter and Flickr and Instagram, and how to use. Christy did some great ones on how do you make your Facebook page more interesting and more engaging. How to use Twitter, WordPress and eBlogger, which are blogs. So we have these. So if you're interested in them, please go back to our archives. But we need advocates to get on social media. Traditional media. Do you contribute, or could you contribute as a guest columnist, Delmarva Farmer, or you could write a letter to an editor. They will often take contributing columnists, as does things like CNN. They have reporters. They like to hear from people who are on the ground doing what they do. Could you be an ag ambassador? And that would mean checking out with your local school. Maybe they have a career day and you could attend and talk about your lifestyle and what you do and what agriculture means to you. And again, an opportunity to get to young audiences and tell them that there's a family besides this business that's perceived to be industrial, and they need to meet us. They need to know who we are. Again, writing letters to editors, attending meetings, letters to representatives, and then appearances. What does your farm or business look like to the drive-by visitor? A lot of our farms are banked up against roads. It's interesting because I think the next picture, well, I'll come to that. So in other words, who are you? These are some of the women that I've met through Women in Ag. They run the gamut of their connection to agriculture. But who do they think we are? And they think we're this. And these are pictures that are proliferating on the internet. A farmer here in chains. Yeah, that's their land, but they're being told what to do. Animal cruelty. Hypodermic needles are very, very big with anti-agricultural images. Your abs and thighs on cheese, so it's attack on dairy. Dairy hormones, pesticides, animal cruelty is huge. And of course, genetically modified GMOs, frankenfood. This is a site called factoryfarms.org, which is amazing because .org is, when you have a .org URL or domain, it's a little bit more trusted. But this identifies our region, Sussex County in particular, and forgive me for not knowing the county here in Maryland, but you can see the dark red. These are what they consider to be extreme factory farm locations. And this site is all about animal welfare issues. So there's there's no acknowledgement that farmers are families and human beings here. These are just some more images that I've pulled off, readily available. Monsanto in particular is a huge target. This is Food and Water Watch, and they talk about Delmarva Peninsula has been using arsenic in their chicken feed. Well, arsenic is a naturally present compound, just like you have copper and magnesium. We have arsenic in our soils. So the way they can twist things around is quite disturbing. This is a gentleman, this is a, quote, scientist who did published a survey, a study in 2013. This is photoshopped, obviously, but you see someone holding up a rat with a lot of, a mouse or lab rat with a lot of tumors. What they don't disclose is this researcher here has employed questionable methods, and he had a financial interest in non-GMO websites and products. So he was, as a scientist, he had already a conflict of interest when he embarked on this study. Here's Forbes magazine countering that study. When the study released and it began to become peer-reviewed, a lot of people who appreciate the scientific method were very, very upset by the methods. And basically what their biggest claim was, he only used 10 female and 10 male rats, and they were all genetically identical. And if you're doing any kind of a study where you have to have controls, if we were doing a study on human beings, we would want to have older people, younger people, we'd want to have different ethnicities so that it reflects the whole human population. So that's the study, and it's now been retracted, so there's a retraction on this, but you still get Monsanto is releasing this corn that's causing cancer and making pregnant women lose their babies and all this other kind of stuff. And this is, I saw it on Facebook 2 days ago. This is my snapshot of it. And then I went on, and to Snopes even is saying this is false. But there's not enough voices out there that when this stuff gets shared on social media, that there's not enough people saying, hold on there, check this out, here's a link. Here's another one. This is a site called Raw for Beauty. It's on Facebook. It's got a huge following. It promotes eating raw foods for your health. Nothing wrong with that. But they don't just promote, they also attack and use lots of scary images and scary pictures. And Facebook is not the place to get real news. If you thought that, Morgan Freeman, the actor, he's died 5 times on Facebook, and people see that and they share it. There's a new thing on Facebook where, everybody was doing the ice bucket challenge, and then a thing came out saying the 70% of the ice bucket challenge money is not even used for research, and that was debunked. But I saw a lot of my friends going, really, is this true? I can't believe I was duped. Well, you weren't duped. But people put, pardon my French, crap out on the internet, and it's shared virally, and then everybody believes it. So we have to do our due diligence on, before you share something, is it true? Let's check it out a little bit. Here's an image. I've been involved in agriculture now since 2001. I didn't come from a farm background, but I have never in my 14 years ever seen people hanging around a cornfield looking like this. But this is on Facebook. This is Raw for Beauty, and they're saying this corn is so dangerous that they have to wear hazmat suits now to be near it. Well, that's just outright baloney. But it gets put out there, and then the comments, if you read the comments, which I like to do, you'll just be amazed at the people that believe this. Again, there's a real fondness for hypodermic needles, men in masks. It's so dangerous. They cover themselves up, but it's fine if you can be exposed to it. So it's just, this is now saying Monsanto is going to make women infertile. So there's no check. If you go onto YouTube and search factory farm abuse, you will get, this is just a small screenshot of many videos that are out there, and videos are very powerful tools. And a little bit about videos. So what do you do with when you see videos like this? Well, I'll come back to that. Chipotle, which is a restaurant, they have what they call a comedy about agriculture. It's called Farmed and Dangerous, and it's a big hit on Hulu. You stream it. You can watch it on their website. And it depicts agriculture as an industrial complex, and not obviously not good. She's wearing the red devil. You can see the pitchfork here. They make no bones about what they feel about production agriculture as being inherently evil. And people watch this for entertainment. And yeah, they say it's a comedy, but they're out to attack the industry. And then, of course, you probably have heard of Food Inc. If you've never seen it, you should. It is a documentary style. It's meant to scare. When people see it, they get very upset, and it makes them question where their food comes from and is food safe. And it paints agriculture, again, not grown by families, but by corporations. Forks Over Knives is an advocate for plant-to-plate diets, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to eat raw, that's fine, but they don't just advocate for that. They also have to demonize the other side. So that's basically the concern here. Vegans, raw food advocates, people who are on plant-based diets. President Clinton is on one when he had his heart attack. That's what he did. Vegetarians, people who want organics and organic farmers, people who want to pay more to have organic foods. They're not our enemy. In Cooperative Extension, we show organic farmers how to do it right, how to not use pesticides, how to use cover crops instead to keep weeds out. So they are not our enemy. We are a big world. We're all in it, and we have the freedom, to choose what we want to eat. We don't demonize these people. We wish that they wouldn't demonize production agriculture, but they don't rest on their own merits. They have to attack. And there's just with Photoshop, I mean, if I put a picture of a rat that got cancer because of radiation, and I put that up on the internet and say this was because it ate Monsanto corn, everyone's going to believe it and share it. So nobody's checking things, and they really want to believe what they believe. And if they're shown the truth, they kind of just say, oh, well, you've been paid off. So that's their retort. You've probably gone by, if you've driven by any rural area, you've seen cornfields and lima bean fields and soybean fields where they have signs up. It's getting so bad now that states like Iowa are not using these signs anymore because it's giving the impression that these farms are corporate. So I don't know whether you agree with that, but these are just some of the implications now of this ideology. So in effect, what all of the surveyors, this comes from U.S. Farmers and Ranchers and Alliance, which is a great resource for us. They did a study, and the biggest words, this is a word cloud, but the biggest words are what they feel. So pesticides is actually the biggest. So this is how they feel about agriculture, the rank and file, average Joe Blow. So we want to see not this, but we want to see more of this. And in order to see more of this, we need to have you. So we're thanking you for listening to this webinar today, and we hope that you share it with other people that are in your culture and in your industry, and you are very, very much needed. We need to recruit new voices. And going forward, we want to acknowledge people's concerns. There are bad actors out there. And so one of the things that this is Ranchers and Alliance, but also the Centers for Food Integrity have determined is You could be a farmer and you could be using pesticides minimally, and you're using them correctly, or you're using herbicides the proper way and as little as possible. And they might not like that, but if they know that you share their values, if they've gotten an opportunity to meet you, learn about your farm, learn about your family history, your business history, if they have a sense of who you are, they will trust you despite the fact that maybe you're still using some traditional agricultural methods. So the path forward is to begin a dialogue, change the way we talk about the people who are attacking us, and also to acknowledge their concerns. This is what I was getting to. The Center for Food Integrity did a study on what resonates with people and what doesn't. Early adopters, this age group, I didn't show you all of their slides, but this age group here, we're looking at women, mothers, women in their ages 20 to 40 years of age. They're also called non-officially the Oprah Winfrey audience, but these are people who would watch shows like that, get their information from shows like that. They're very internet savvy, and so they're getting their information. And the lowest concern was when we say farmers feed the world, only 29%. So that's 71% of people who hear that could care less. So we're saying that, we're putting it on our bumper stickers, and it is not resonating with people. So what does? So again, when we say farmers feed the world, we're spending a lot of money saying that, but we're not. It's not really resonating with the audience like we'd like it to. Modern literature. This is an excerpt from a book called Skinny Bitch, which my daughter sent to me. She moved up to New York and she got very involved in organic foods, but it just goes on with this terribly cruel picture of what animals have to endure in American agriculture. They're talking here about eggs and chickens. Very disturbing book, but when you read it, it just makes you ill and makes you not want to ever eat anything. And they advocate a complete vegan lifestyle. But in doing so, they have to demonize traditional agricultural methods. But this is not traditional. The people I know that are poultry farmers don't treat their birds this way. This is Butterball's House of Horrors, Cruelty to Turkeys. You just find this on the internet. So how do you respond to something like that? Because when you see them, it is disturbing. And what all of the experts have said is when you are talking to someone who throws something like this at you, is you do respond. And you need to say, this is terribly upsetting to see this. This disturbs me. You've got to let the activists know that this is not typical. This upsets you. It's not how you do business. It's not how you run your poultry farm. It's not how you, whatever you do. So we want you to comment. Something like YouTube where comments are quite prolific. That's an opportunity for you to say, well, I'm a poultry farmer and that upsets me because that's not how we do things. And you may want to show a picture of what the inside of your business or operation looks like. So there's different ways that you can counter that. But you don't want to ignore it, nor do you want to call the people crazy or a liar. And I've talked with people who've in nutrient management, and they're like older guys, 50s, 60s, and they're like, these people, they're nuts and they're crazy. They're not crazy. They're passionate. They're believing what they see. That video might be 15 years old. It may be current. We have to acknowledge that there's bad actors, but we have to follow it up with saying that's not how we do it. That's not what our philosophy is. That's not what my shared value system. I get upset at that just as much as anybody does. And when you can make that connection, then they can trust you, and then they'll listen to you. But if you completely discard them and tell them that they're crazy or they're lying, then you're never going to have a future dialogue with them. So that's the nuts and bolts of how to respond to something like that. So who are these people and how do we talk to them? There are some resources for you. The Center for Food Integrity, I've shown some of their slides. This is an awesome website. They also have video webinars like we do that are recorded where they talk about the things. They survey people, so they're basically about how are people feeling about agriculture, and very specific, so that then we know, okay, if they're concerned about animal rights, then we can talk about that. And they encourage people to add those kinds of statements to their websites, for instance. U.S. Farm and Ranchers, which is fooddialogues.com, is another great site where they have videos and discussions, and they talk about what's being talked about out there. Now, it's farmers and ranchers, so it covers the whole United States. But they are also, just like Center for Food Integrity, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, and then they have a very large web presence. Common Ground, findourcommonground.com. This is another excellent website that talks about where we can have a common ground with people, and it promotes dialogue and connectivity with our consumers, which is, so we're just not out there making money. We want to hear about them. We care about how they feel. We want them to know a little bit more about us. And again, if we're genuine and we're transparent, and if we can give them a reason to connect with us, then they may be able to learn a little bit more and not be so vulnerable to some of the activists out there. Ag is America. This is another, this represents all of the land-grant universities. Every state has one. So they talk about agriculture throughout the United States. They have a web presence, and they talk about innovations. You can click on the institutions. They have video, history, what's going on in agriculture, positive impact stories. They also have a Twitter account, and they have a Facebook page. And you'll notice, just as a social media technique, there's a logo, and if you are going to go on the web and you're going to look into social media, you'll see that they repeat their logo. That's their brand. That's another important thing to do if you're going to enter into technology and internet advocacy. Be visibly recognizable. So developing a brand for your company or for your person is a good thing. Here are some other resources. Again, this is the three I've already mentioned. Two more, Farmers Feed Us, which talks about, again, Farmers Feed Us, they feed the U.S., so there's a dual meaning here. But that Center for Food Integrity is going to tell you that really doesn't resonate, but what this does is they talk about the families, and you get to actually meet the farmer. I think that's Burley Hopkins from Hopkins Dairy. So you got to actually meet the people, and this is part of telling our story. Let an opportunity for the consuming public to meet you and learn a little bit about you. Then there is a new website, and I'm sorry I didn't hyperlink, but familyfarmers.org is an advocacy for family farmers. Jayson Lusk, he appeared at Delaware Ag Week last year. He has written a book. He is a food economist. He is a professor at the Oklahoma State University. And he told us at Ag Week, and he writes in his book, that he was invited by his university to talk to incoming students. And he thought, oh, great, they want to talk about food economics, and they want a little bit about the different schools. And they basically, it was an ambush. And he writes that every single freshman who enrolls at Oklahoma State University are required to watch the Food Inc. documentary, which is anti-agriculture, which is amazing because Oklahoma State is a big agricultural state. He was just dumbfounded by it because he views that as an indoctrination. So you have this image of an institution, this college being very liberal and making sure that all of their freshmen see an anti-agriculture film. And so he had a lot of work to do. He's written a book about food politics, and I'm just getting to it now. I'm just reading it, but it's something you might want to check into. So, how to add your voice. Consider using a blog or a website. Google will give you if you have a Google account, you'll have you can get a free blogger, e-blogger. WordPress.com, there's a WordPress.org. .org WordPress is for if you have a server or if you want to pay for somebody to serve your account, which is more expensive, but the WordPress.com is free. That's a great, both of the eBlogger and the WordPress.com are free and probably very good to use if you're not selling anything. If you're looking to sell something like on Etsy or have e-commerce, then those won't really help you. But if you just want to write about what you do or you want to write about your company, try looking at Google eBlogger or WordPress. And again, visit and listen to Christy's excellent videos on how to start a blog. They're pretty easy. I just came across Weebly.com. Very easy. I'm taking a MOOC course on photography, and they required that you create a website to showcase your photos. Did it in 10 minutes. That's how easy it was to use. You may want to create your own YouTube videos. A little bit more about that. Here's somebody who is a guest blogger on CNN. So they have an opportunity for you to be an eye reporter, and he wrote an opinion piece on his family is not under corporate control. So there's a voice, there's a way to do it. If you don't want to go on blogs and create one yourself, you can guest author. So that's just one. This was called on their Etocracy blog. Farmer Dan's Daughter. This is an example of a local blog. This is Christy Vanderwyn Wright. If you know Christy, this is a farm in Bridgeville, long family history. But she writes about being Farmer Dan's daughter. She writes about her wedding and her puppies and what she does every day. When someone in her family, or she recently lost her grandfather, she wrote about that. But she's writing about what agriculture means to her. You're getting to see her, know her. Just her blogs are about this, that, and the other thing. But they all have a connection to blogs. She'll write about legislation and things like that. But this is an opportunity. This is, I believe it's a WordPress blog, a very simple blog to create. She just had a baby, so she hasn't been active on it lately, but an opportunity. And what's nice about here is another post for her. She gives a legislative update. Are you farmer market ready? She talks about her experiences with growing and selling on farmers markets. But I wanted to show you this, that most of these blogs give you an opportunity to share on social media. So these are long essays. You don't always have to do it this long. Here she's embedded a YouTube video. You could throw a couple pictures up, a couple links. They don't have to be always this long. But once you do it on a blog, you don't have to repeat yourself. You can go ahead and then send it out through social network sites. So you compose once and you publish elsewhere. So that's one of the advantages of having a blog. And if you don't know how to do a blog, maybe there's somebody in your family that does. This might be a job that you can give to a teenager or a grandchild, someone who's tech savvy, and these kids can whip these sites up really, really quickly. So again, COPE is compose once, publish everywhere. Google's eBlogger and WordPress are the two most common, and they're free, fairly easy to use once you get the hang of it. And if you don't know how to do it, you can go on YouTube and they'll show you how to do it. So it's pretty easy. This is Weebly. Again, I just learned about this last week. It's absolutely free. You don't even have to have a Gmail. You just use an existing email account you have. And again, I set one up for this photography class. I want to tell you that this is a screenshot of it. It took me, so I have, I'm showing off here my photography. So I have a page about me. If you click it, there's a picture of me. This could be about you, about your business, about your farm, about your history. You could then have, I have pictures here of agriculture and so on down the line. Altogether, it took me about 2 hours to populate 8 pages. This was extremely friendly, 100% free. Yes, if you want to spend $40 a year, you can have a customized URL, but my URL is walfred.weebly.com, so that's not too bad. But it's just another opportunity. I was highly impressed how easy it was, and there's all kinds of templates and designs already made for you, so you don't really have to know anything about how to do anything, and you just kind of drag it and plop it in place. So it's really terrific. It's a good resource. Your website. If you have a website, how long has it been since you've updated it? And your website should have an About Us. And that About Us should include family photos. People love historical photos. I can tell you doing social media and Throwback Thursdays are our biggest hits. We get the biggest visitation and interaction from people when we pull up a picture from the 60s or 70s. So history of your business, how you got where you are, how your grandfather, your great-grandfather, people love that, and it makes them feel comfortable about what you do. We also recommend that you include a value statement, and this is where you talk about your philosophy, your love of the land. Maybe you say, we go to extension classes. We're learning now as poultry farmers how to manage our how to manage our manure. We're taking nutrient management classes. We're learning, we feel good about taking classes, and now we know, we're now seeing results that we're not polluting the Chesapeake the way everybody thought we were. We care about our animals. We wake up at 3 o'clock and check those alarms. We walk into those houses. It isn't a factory worker that does it. It's us. It's my husband, my wife, my son, my grandson. So this is what you want to talk about, pictures of your family, what's important to you, and why you're in business or why you're related to this agricultural enterprise, and what it means to you. And so that needs to be on your website, and you should change it up once in a while to make it fresh. So if you don't have this in your website, you want to consider putting that in. And of course, with websites, you want to link to everyday life. You don't always do that in a website so easily. If you're sourcing it out to somebody, that might not be the best place to do it. Some websites like Google and WordPress, you can have your site operate. You can have the Google and eBlogger and WordPress act as a static website and not as a blog. But then you can add a blog to it. With the Weebly, I can have a blog along with my stationary pages. So the blog could be an aspect of your website, but it doesn't have to be. You could do that just as easily, and quite honestly, it's where it's needed, is in social media. So Instagram, huge, because it's targeted to young people. That's a great way to do it. Flickr, Facebook, Twitter. There's just some ideas of what we hope you would populate with content. Because of the way Adobe Connect works, I really wanted to play these two videos for you. This one is too long, and this one here, I'm not sure that the sound would come through. So if you do nothing else today, I would like you to please Google these two terms, Mark Linus, Oxford, 2013. It will pop up as a Vimeo video, but he also has it on his own website, and the only reason I recommend his website is down below. The text of his speech is, you can actually read along with it. He's from the United Kingdom. He was an activist against GMOs. He is one of the leading activists, or the leading people who push for the anti-GMO movement. He calls them GMs in Europe. And he appeared last year before an Oxford conference on agriculture and did a complete 180 and apologized for doing it. And it just sent shockwaves throughout the whole. And he talks about how it's because of this anti-GMO activity that they made it so difficult for anybody to produce a genetically modified crop that they're responsible for empowering people like companies like Monsanto. He makes a very important statement here that not a single individual has ever died or gotten sick. It's never been scientifically proven or documented that anybody has ever gotten sick from a GM product. It's not what you'll read on the internet. He talks about, however, some people have gotten sick from organics, and he talks about why. He is very convincing, very interesting. I have this link to him bookmarked, and anytime I see a really uneducated dialogue going on about genetically modified products, I will throw in this link and say, hey, I don't say what it is. I just say, hey, this is a gentleman who led the charge against GMs. You really need to hear what he says. And I usually don't get much of a comment back from anybody because he's very convincing. He basically says, I discovered science. And in doing so, realize that he's not knocking organics, he's not knocking vegans, but he's saying feeding the world is important. They may not want to hear that, but he basically says if you're going to grow things the way the antis would want you to grow things, we would have to absorb so much of the world's land mass. It just would not be feasible. So he really goes into a lot of detail. It's an hour long, well worth watching. The other term I'd like you to Google is Oprah Winfrey's Inside a Slaughterhouse, or just Inside a Slaughterhouse will be fine. Now, in about 2011, I went to Atlanta and I attended a U.S. Poultry and Egg Conference on ag communications, the very first one they ever convened, because they felt that ag communication was being so badly beaten up on the internet that they had to do something. And they had a representative from Cargill there, and they talked about their Oprah Winfrey experience. And all week long, Oprah Winfrey had Michael Pollan. This is Michael Pollan. Mr. Pollan is an advocate for vegan eating, whole food eating. They all week long had the vegan challenge, where they were challenging their viewers, excuse me, to not eat any meat, and not just eat vegetarian, but vegan. And vegan is different than vegetarian. It means no animal products of any kind. Vegans do not wear leather. They do not buy cars with leather interior. They do not wear leather belts or leather shoes. A true vegan. So they needed to be somewhat fair, so they wanted to have a voice, and so they went to Cargill, who's the largest beef producer in the United States. They went out there and they said, would you like to talk to us? We want at least one day of the other side's point of view. How fair of them, one whole day versus 4. They went inside a slaughterhouse. They allowed cameras to go in and film. The only thing they would not let them film was the actual bolting of the cow's head, which knocks them unconscious. And she said that we say no to that because those images can be then turned into GIFs and be repeated and repeated and repeated. So they honored that. But they didn't hide anything else. They show the cows before they die, and they acknowledge that the cows are curious, so they have an intellect. They talk about what they do. When you watch this, pay very close attention to this woman. Her name is Nicole Hoffman Johnson, and she was Cargill's representative. And it's the way she talked about her industry. She didn't apologize for what she did. And also the way she talked about, because Lisa Liu, the reporter here, says, well, how do you counter someone who says that this is cruel and you shouldn't be eating meat? And she comes back with a very thoughtful response. But you need to, the way that Nicole talks about meat, you could switch out beef and you could switch in poultry. And that is the best way to talk to people who don't believe what you believe. This is 101 on how to talk about agriculture, as particularly animal agriculture. Later, and this cannot be found on the internet. It's very interesting why it's not, but the representative from Cargill had a DVD, so he played it. After, on one of the final shows, they had Nicole on stage with Oprah and Mr. Pollen. And you can see Nicole, she's that Oprah audience. She's a 30 to 40-year-old woman. She's wearing a nice pair of sensible shoes, black pants, and a purple sweater set. They had told her to wear red. And her consultant said, no way, because red is the color of blood, it's the color of aggression. So, this is what Oprah's people were telling her to wear on stage. And we saw this footage, which you will not be able to find online. And she looks over at Michael Pollan, who is just attacking our industry and our way of life. And she says, I'm so glad that you're here today, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to talk. And she turned to him and said, if you want to eat this way, and if you want to we have no problem with that. We have, the world's big enough for us to eat the kind of food the way we want it. But I also believe that people should be allowed to have meat. And she goes on and she explains it, but she wasn't attacking him. And she totally neutralized the other side, because she wasn't this hard, angry person playing a victim, attacking Mr. Pollan for his views. She did not say that at all. So it was really illuminating to watch that, and it's something that I show to people every chance I get, because it is the #1 correct way to talk about particularly animal agriculture. Another thing, too, with your websites is make sure that you go on Google. If you have a Google account, if you have a Google email, you'll get a free email. You will get with that a free YouTube channel. And then if you have a smartphone, then you have a production company, because all you need to do is take videos with your cell phone. You can upload them to YouTube, and you have movies. So you could take pictures of what you do, your philosophy, introduce yourself with a film. 1 to 2 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes is the ideal YouTube length. So you could have little snippets just about what you do, what your philosophy is, what is a typical day in the life for you and your business. You also get with that Google Plus, which is an alternate to Facebook. It's very photo friendly. Some people do both. But it also gives you Google Business, or it's now called Google Places. And I wanted to show you, this is what this is right here. You want to register yourself with Google Places, because then when people search you, if you've registered, your business, your place of business, or your farm, you may not want to do it for your farm, but you may want to do it if you have a business, will pop up. And if you're on a cell phone, if you've ever looked up a business on your cell phone, the phone number becomes active. They can just touch that, and they can go right to call you. The directions are right there. So this is something you have to do. Google will verify it, and then they will put you on there. So it's very important if you want to promote your business and make yourself easy to find on the internet. I recommend that you use Google Places. Also, with a Gmail account, you will get access to a free e-blogger to create a website or a blog, and there's lots of really cool templates. And then also you have access to Google Docs, which is very similar to Microsoft Office. So they have their own version of PowerPoint, Word, Excel, etc. So I just wanted to point that out to you as a resource. This is a larger example of how I signed Carvel up for the Google Business, and this is how it appears right off the bat. And this box here is what would appear on somebody's cell phone. So then there's a little phone icon. You just click it and people could call us. So millennials and early adopters are people who are engaged, passionate, they're organized, they've been on the internet, and they are using it very, very effectively. They're using scare tactics, and it's working. So the whole purpose of this webinar is to encourage you. We want a balance. We're not going to convince everybody of their point of view, but we need a balance of voices out there. These are some language landmines that this comes from U.S. Farmers and Ranchers Alliance, but not to use words like pesticide, fertilizer, GMOs, but actually to use these terms instead. And the fact that it remains is we're not using, chickens do not use hormones. They've been illegal since 1950, but you would not know that if you went on social media. What drives consumers to trust us? And I mentioned this before. This is very, very fascinating. If they get to know you and they find out that you share values with them, so when you go to a farmer's market and you've got a name tag and you talk about your farm and they get to meet you, yeah, you might use pesticides. You may use herbicides. You use them properly. And even though they object to that, they're more likely to let that slide if they know you and if they feel that you've shared their values. So anytime you can talk about your values, the extra education you attend, the things that you've learned, the cooperative extension workshops you go to so that you're taught, which teach you how to do things better. We teach people how not to put on too much pesticide. Maybe here's a different way of doing it. This is what we do, and people come to our workshops, but they never talk about what they've learned from our workshops. So this from your website, from people meeting you, if they share your values, they are much more they're much more willing to accept you and trust you and therefore do business with you. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to, well, we don't have an audience. We're pre-recording this, so consumers want to know. They want to know who you are. They want to know what your values are, and they want to know your story. They want to develop a relationship with you in some way, and this is why social media is so important, and they want to hear your story. So how else can you do that? And yes, we could come to social media, which tunes a lot of people out because it's not what they grew up with, and I get that. If you are really against social media, maybe there's someone in your family that you could empower to maybe act on some of these platforms. And I'm just going to briefly go over them. But on these social medias, what to do. You want to blog, you want to post photos, and you want to share your story. And just everyday stuff, things that you might think are boring, aren't going to be to somebody. So you wake up in the morning, and you go down to your kitchen, and you look out your window, and maybe the fog is lifting, and the farm is in the background, and you take a picture and say, this was my scene this morning when I woke up. It could be something as simple as that. It puts a person on the scene. It tells people on this farm there are individuals living here, individuals who care. So even the ordinary stuff is very important to share. This is an example. Kevin Fleming, you may or may not know him. He's a very preeminent National Geographic photographer who shoots a lot of Delaware scenes. He has a place of business in Rehoboth. He also has a Facebook page, and once a week he features a picture just to kind of let people know, hey, I'm still here. This is what I do. And one of his pictures was of a poultry worker. So there was a dialogue going on, and people were talking about the photo and the lighting and his talent and all of that. And then it started to digress into the subject, which was poultry growing. And so you can see here, I don't agree, and right here, I don't agree with the way we raise chickens, balance in all things though, huh? And so then then people started talking. I hate it when the trucks roll through Millsboro. It's the most inhumane treatment. I can't be part of it. In my business, I cook it for clients, but I won't eat it. So then you started to see more and more and more of these. And then he kind of said, yeah, because then people said, hey, we're not here to talk about the industry. We're here to talk about the photo. And he goes, yeah, you're right. Nice lighting, Kevin. And then but people kept up with it, and they kept up with talking about how cruel this industry is and how terrible it was, and so forth and so on. And everybody was just, it just kept going. I had to cut it off here, but you could see, this is so unnatural and so sad. I do wish we could produce meat in a more humane way. Please, people. It's perfect lighting on a sea of misery and sickness. and on and on and on and on and on, and there was a lot of discussion about free range. Well, then yours truly pops in. I piped in at the end, and I said free range chicken. I didn't say you idiots, you nuts, you don't know what you're talking about. I just said, very matter of fact, free range chicken and backyard flocks are exposed to predators, and they are also at a much greater risk for contracting avian influenza, which can jump from humans to animals to humans, from the wildlife birds that fly overhead. So your geese and your ducks and your mallards that you see, all the birds, like quite a few of them are prime hook, a lot of them are carriers of avian influenza. So the majority of which have and transmit the bird in their droppings. So I was just putting out a fact. No one countered it, no one liked it, but no one came back and told me I was crazy or I didn't know what I was talking about. But I used an opportunity in social media to advocate. Just let people know. Otherwise, these people just run rampant. And nobody comes back and says, yeah, but did you ever consider this? Did you ever consider that when something has a genetically modified resistance to a disease, then we don't have to spray fungicide on that. So that's the kind of voices that we need. So that's just an example. This was another one. I copied this from Facebook. This was 2 years ago. There was a Chipotle commercial. Chipotle is the one that produces that Farmed and Dangerous. So this was Adele. This was at the Grammys when Adele was winning. So this is going back, 3 years. So it was an awesome commercial. And, of course, it was a commercial about chicken and how their chicken is, their chickens all run around in the grass and get to be happy little chickens eating ants and mosquitoes. And so there's then a dialogue about agriculture, and then this Shirley person starts talking about how there's no such thing as a family, it's all corporate farming. And then this person here is Sue. This is Sue Oakle. She's a Delmarva Poultry, and she jumps into this discussion. And she talks about her occupation as a poultry farmer. She counters the corporation label. She talks about what she does and what her values are. She talks about worrying about their health. She checks from them. And then Shirley comes back and she sort of neutralizes Shirley. Oh, I checked Shirley out. I looked at her profile. She was a journalist. And that just really upset me because that's what I am. That's my training. And in journalism, there's opinion journalism, but straight journalism, you're supposed to present the differing sides of a story. X did this, Y did this, here's the facts, and then let the reader decide. But Shirley was advocating against agriculture as a reporter, and it was just really upsetting to see that. But Shirley comes back because Sue spoke up. Shirley kind of said, I'm pleased with your comments. And so there was a little bit of a dialogue going on. So maybe, just maybe, she learned that not all poultry farmers are this evil empire that she previously thought. So there's just an example how one little statement of speaking up can help. We don't have a lot of time. There are hashtags. These will be, I'll send a PDF of this. So you'll be able to access it on the webinar link and get to these. But these are hashtags. Hashtags are used to help people find topics in social media. If you're going to use tools and platforms, the one I suggest using, the one that we do, and this is not necessarily in order, but Twitter is very, very, very big. Flickr is good. YouTube, professional content, blogs or blogging. Facebook is becoming less so. If you have a Facebook page for your business, you've probably seen the whole thing has changed, and that's another topic, and I think it's a topic we've covered, Christy covered. Instagram is great. It's just take a picture of something that you're doing related to agriculture, put a hashtag in there. You have to use hashtags with Instagram if you want anybody to see them. Maybe these things here. So let's keep going real quick. This is Twitter. What is Twitter? It's a microblogging. You can do it on a desktop, but it is primarily cell phone, smartphone, and it is tablets. Younger demographic, but it's also where all your reporters, your major companies are. So if you want to tweet about what you do for a living and your life on your farm, life on your business, pictures of your family, meet our workers and feature people who work for you, this is where you want to do it. You're going to get the most bang for your buck from Twitter. They also have organized chats. I'm going to skip this slide. We're running out of time. These are just different companies, but it's not just companies. There are private individuals that use Twitter and use it quite effectively, including extension. But this is what I wanted to show you. There are three main chats: garden chat, ag chat, which I did last night, and the discussion last night was about non-food agriculture. So how do we tell people about cotton and things that maybe they don't even realize that we're responsible for? It isn't just food, but it's also other relatable products. And then there's food chat. And what you do is you go on during these days at these times and you use this hashtag. You search for it on, there's a little search button up on Twitter, and you search for this hashtag, and then you'll see all the conversation that's going on, and you can join it if you want, or you could just audit it. But pretty nice. These are just samples of tweets that I've done for College of UD Extension. Flickr is, and scratch the $25 a year. You don't want to do this. It's going up to $45 a year, and the no ad thing doesn't work. So you can get 1 terabyte of free storage. You can put pictures of your business, your farm. It becomes very searchable on the internet. So these are some of our accounts. This is what it looks like. So yours could be the different flavors of our ice cream, the different kinds of lavender. Here's some of our products. Meet our coworkers. Meet the family. Here's some historical. So you have all these little albums that you can put on there and people can click. The secret with Flickr is when you upload the images, make sure you name them with keywords. Don't name them Image 101 or DSC 101. This is just a screenshot, or I could show you, but if you clicked on that picture, it says Delaware blueberries or something with those keywords in it. And the Adobe Connect shortened this, but we had 3,004 viewers on this day. We had 1,251, 2,693. This is per day. Visit our Flickr accounts, because we label the pictures. If you label the pictures, how many of you have ever gone on to Google and typed in a Google image search and looked for some corn or lima beans? Your pictures can be the ones showing up there if you label them correctly. So this is a huge way of communicating to the public through just photographs, really. You can caption them if you want, sort of like photo stories. LinkedIn, this is business to business. This is Facebook without the kitty cat videos and the baby videos. This is peer-to-peer, professional to professional, and people talking about topical things that are of interest to them in their industry. So Instagram is photo-driven. These are, I searched for the term FarmDE or FarmMD would be another one. And these were some of the photos that popped up that show agriculture. What's nice about these is, for instance, if that were my picture, and it is, I would also put cow, dairy, ice cream, tongue, nose, Holstein. I would hashtag all of that, because this is how other people find you on Instagram. And there is an Instagram webinar, so I won't go into any more detail, but it's a very cool tool. It's cool because it's going to hit younger people. This is where younger people are expressing themselves and where they're learning about things. Pinterest, I have one. I don't do a lot on it. It's a visual bulletin board, so it lends itself well to recipes. So if you are selling food, if you are an orchard, you could be putting peach and pie recipes and talking about, you know, apple butter and different ways to do this, that. So you could talk about that, and other people post your images. So it's just a visual bulletin board. Facebook pages. Again, big changes with Facebook, and I would recommend that you listen to the webinar on that. The takeaway here is just keep duplicating your logo, but it's becoming a little bit more difficult now to outreach to people through Facebook. It used to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. It isn't so much anymore, so there's better ways to reaching out to people. Use good photos. Here's apples we produce, but which one do you think would sell better? People want to see the connection. These kids aren't wearing hazmat suits. They're smiling and they're touching the apples and they're picking them directly off the tree because they are safe. And so this is the kind of photograph that you want to use. And we don't need that one. Again, just a re-emphasis. This is from an older presentation. Be transparent. Talk about what you do. Talk about your everyday life. This is what people really want to hear from. This is, again, just an older slide about the Oprah thing. So in summary, capitalize on your family history and the land that you've inherited. Photos are very powerful, and use them to tell your stories. Keep your blogs and your websites up to date. Make corrective but polite comments if you see anti or negative imagery or comments on different websites. I'm a big comment reader, so it's where a lot of the dialogue goes on. Use social media. You don't have to use, you don't have to use everyone. I would say Twitter, if you were going to, Twitter or Instagram would be a nice way to start. Think about writing guest columns. Think about visiting schools or community events where you can represent who you are and what you do. Create a business or farm YouTube video. Get up there and just let it jiggle. Don't worry about it being perfect. I've seen all kinds of videos up there. The point is that they get to know who you are, how you think, and how you run your business, and how you represent agriculture. Offer your location, if you can, to schools for tours. You can be in leadership. You can sponsor things with your business, Little League teams, an ad in school papers, anything like that. Look at your roadside impressions. Has your fence been painted in the last 50 years? Maybe it's time. We want people as they're riding by, you know, is this farm a good steward? Are they taking care of the environment? Is there a lot of trash laying around, old beat up equipment? People form impressions by that. Title your images. Any image that you upload on the internet, no matter where it is, title it. Put a name to it. Connect it to what you do. Wear name tags. Hand out information at farmers markets. Don't just sell your broccoli and your tomatoes, but maybe have a little fact sheet about your website, maybe where you are on social media. Encourage your consumers to follow you on social media. Engage your younger people in your family, grandchildren, teenagers, young people. They know how to use this stuff, and so if it scares you, elicit their help. And repeat your logo or develop your own brand. And with that, the most dangerous phrase is we've always done it the same way.
Thank you for watching our archived presentation of our Wednesday webinar. If you would like to see more archived Wednesday webinars, please visit our YouTube channel, or to find a schedule of upcoming live webinars, visit our website.